she thought no one would ever suspect. But the quiet town of Arizona was about to taste horror like never before. Arizona, a land of dusty roads, isolated homesteads, and secrets buried under the scorching sun. Small towns stretched between endless deserts. People trusted their neighbors, yet the darkness often hid behind closed doors. In one of these towns lived Samuel Harding, a man respected by the community. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that carried authority. He ran the local ranch with a strict hand. Everyone admired his work ethic, but behind the closed doors of his home, whispers of tension lingered. Samuel's wife, Clara Harding, seemed ordinary at first glance. A devoted wife, a careful homemaker, always with a smile. But those smiles never reached her eyes. Her mind harbored thoughts she dared not voice. Neighbors often noticed the quiet arguments, the slam of doors, Samuel's booming voice, Clara's cold silence. Some claimed it was the stress of frontier life. Others said it was Samuel's controlling nature. No one could guess the storm brewing in Clara's mind. The Harding house stood on the edge of town, wooden beams creaking under the weight of years, smoke curling from the chimney during winter nights, a seemingly normal home hiding a secret that would shock everyone. Even the animals seemed uneasy. Dogs growled at shadows, cats hissed for no reason, a subtle warning that went unnoticed by the Harding family. Clara moved through her days quietly, her hands busy with chores, yet in the dead of night, her thoughts turned darker. Plans formed like shadows creeping along the walls. No one in town would ever suspect, not until it was too late. As we follow the tale of Samuel and Clara Harding, remember this: in history, the quietest people often hide the darkest secrets. If you're intrigued and want to uncover the chilling events that followed, hit that like button, share this story, comment your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more dark tales from history. Behind every smile, a storm was brewing, and in the Harding household, no one was safe from the darkness. Samuel Harding was the picture of authority. The townsfolk respected him, feared him, even envied him. But in his own home, he ruled with an iron fist. Every decision, every word, every glance measured, controlled, commanding. Clara Harding moved silently through the house. Her hands scrubbed, cleaned, prepared meals, but her mind wandered. It wandered to thoughts no one could know. Thoughts of freedom, thoughts of revenge, thoughts of escape from the man she once loved but now feared. The arguments grew sharper. Voices that once murmured in disagreement became shouting matches. Neighbors sometimes heard the crashes, the yells. They whispered about marital trouble, but they didn't know the real terror hiding behind those walls. Clara's eyes, once warm, grew cold. She smiled when Samuel looked, but her mind plotted. Every meal she cooked, every chore she performed, every polite word, it was all a mask hiding something far more sinister. Samuel didn't notice. He was too proud, too certain of his control to see the danger he lived with. He underestimated the quiet woman in his home, the woman who had perfected patience and malice. It was the summer of 1876. The desert heat was relentless, suffocating, pressing down on the Harding home. Even the wind seemed to whisper secrets through the cracks in the walls. Clara began her preparations. Not for a party, not for a feast, but for a plan that would change everything. And yet, to the townsfolk, life seemed normal. Clara smiled at the neighbors. She greeted them with kind words. The perfect wife, the perfect hostess. But the perfect mask hides the darkest intentions, and Clara Harding's intentions were about to shatter the fragile peace of this quiet Arizona town. If you're ready to uncover the shocking steps Clara took toward her gruesome plan, like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to follow this chilling story to its terrifying end. Some minds hide darkness so deep, even the people closest to them never see it coming. Clara Harding had always been clever, smart, observant, calculating. On the surface, she appeared delicate, harmless. But beneath that gentle exterior, a storm brewed. Her childhood had been harsh. Born into a strict household, discipline was served cold. Her father demanded obedience. Her mother whispered prayers she didn't understand. By the time she married Samuel, Clara had learned the power of silence, the power of patience, and the power of waiting for the perfect moment. Life on the frontier had hardened her. Long days under the blistering sun, endless chores, the isolation of the desert pressing in from every side. Samuel's temper made it worse. He was a man used to control, a man who expected his wife to obey without question. Clara learned quickly to hide her anger. A fleeting glare, a muted sigh. She buried her resentment beneath smiles and nods. But resentment, like fire, grows quietly before it explodes. She began imagining freedom, imagining life without Samuel's domineering presence. But the law was slow, justice was uncertain. She knew she had to act, and she knew she had to act cleverly. Every detail mattered. Every routine Samuel followed. Every neighbor who came and went. Clara studied them all. And then she began to plan. She thought about the perfect cover, the perfect disguise for what she was about to do. No one would suspect the gentle, hard-working woman in their midst. The perfect wife serving dinner, smiling, nodding, all while hiding a secret so horrific it would shake the town to its core. Even the animals seemed to sense the change. Dogs growled. Cats hissed. Clara, however, remained calm, unnervingly calm. The trap was forming. Every day, every chore, every interaction was a step closer to her dark goal. And soon, the quiet town of Arizona would learn that some evil doesn't announce itself. It waits, silently, until it strikes. If you're ready to uncover the chilling moment when Clara's plan begins to unfold, hit like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you won't miss the horrifying next. Some days start like any other, but by nightfall, everything you know can turn to horror. The sun rose over the Harding homestead, burning orange across the Arizona desert. Samuel Harding stepped outside, whistling, unaware that today would not end like any other day. The wind carried a heavy heat, pressing down on the wooden beams of the house. Even the trees seemed still, waiting. Clara moved quietly, preparing breakfast. Her hands trembled just enough to seem human, but her mind was razor sharp. Every movement was deliberate, every glance calculated. She knew Samuel's routine, every step, every pause, every habit. This knowledge would be her weapon. Breakfast was served. Samuel sat at the table laughing as he tore into the bread Clara had baked. He never noticed the way her eyes followed him, the way her fingers lingered on the knife. To the world, it was a normal morning. Neighbors passing by would have seen the smoke rising from the chimney and thought, life goes on. But inside the Harding home, tension crackled like dry lightning. Clara had prepared everything meticulously. The tools, the plans, the perfect moment when Samuel would be vulnerable. She had imagined it countless times. Every detail perfected, every escape route considered. The hour approached. Samuel laughed at a joke he had told himself, oblivious to the danger. Clara poured him a cup of coffee, hands steady, expression serene. Inside, she counted down the minutes. Her mind whispered a single dark thought. Soon, soon it will all be over. Even the house seemed to hold its breath. The wooden floors creaked under Samuel's boots. The wind rattled the shutters. Shadows stretched long across the walls. And then the moment came. A slip of a hand, a movement too quick to notice. The plan Clara had waited for was in motion. The quiet town of Arizona would soon be shocked, not by a gunshot or a scream, but by a horror hidden beneath the veneer of everyday life. If you want to witness the chilling act that turned Clara's plan into reality, like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you won't miss the next terrifying next. One moment, life was normal. The next, the unthinkable had taken place, forever staining the Harding home. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desert. Inside the Harding house, Clara moved with precision, every step measured, every breath controlled. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with the cold excitement of inevitability. Samuel leaned against the table, sipping his coffee. He laughed, oblivious to the danger so close. Clara's eyes followed him, calm, unblinking. The knife in her hand gleamed faintly in the dim light, a silent promise of what was to come. No one had ever seen this side of Clara. The quiet, dutiful wife had vanished, replaced by a shadow, a predator. She had waited for this moment, planned it for months, perfected it in her mind. Samuel set his cup down, a small accident, a misstep, the moment she had been waiting for. Clara struck. It was quick, swift, precise. No struggle, no scream, only the sudden silence of a life ending before it could even register. The room felt heavier, the air thick with something dark and final. Clara stood over him for a moment, breathing steady, eyes cold. She had done it. The man who had controlled her life, whose temper had shadowed every day, was gone. Yet the horror did not end there. Clara's mind was methodical, unflinching. She would not leave evidence. She would not be caught. She would make the unthinkable disappear. The house, once filled with the mundane sounds of daily life, now held a silence so deep it pressed against the walls. Clara moved as if on instinct, cleaning, hiding, preparing for what must come next. No one could suspect her. No one would ever imagine the truth, at least not yet. Outside, the wind whispered across the desert. A warning, perhaps. Or maybe just the world continuing, indifferent to the darkness that had taken root in the Harding home. The hardest part wasn't the act itself. It was living with it, hiding it, pretending nothing had changed. The house was quiet, too quiet. Samuel Harding was gone, and the world outside continued, oblivious. Clara moved through the rooms, calm, collected, her face a mask of ordinary domesticity. She carried on as if nothing had happened, breakfast dishes cleaned, laundry folded, every chore performed with precise efficiency. Yet beneath the calm, a storm of thoughts churned. Clara had to stay in control. Any slip, any hesitation, and her carefully crafted plan would unravel. Neighbors stopped by, as they often did, asking casual questions. "Where's Samuel?" one asked. "Out at the ranch," Clara replied smoothly, voice steady. No one suspected. No one would suspect. She prepared the evening meal, just as she had done countless times before. But this time, the meal was different. Every detail mattered, every step meticulously planned. Clara moved through the kitchen like a shadow, her mind replaying the morning's act over and over. She could not afford guilt. Not now. Not ever. The town, distant yet always watching, remained unaware. Life continued outside the walls of the Harding home. Children played in the dirt streets. Dogs barked at passing wagons. The world marched on, blind to the horror hiding behind a simple wooden door. Clara set the table, placing every plate and fork with deliberate care. Her hands shook only slightly, a human imperfection she allowed herself. The rest of her movements were calm, almost serene. She glanced at the door, imagining the eyes of anyone who might peek inside. Would they see the truth? Would they notice the absence of Samuel? She smiled, faintly, knowing no one would suspect the wife everyone thought so gentle. The evening approached, the shadows lengthened, and Clara's mind turned to the next phase of her plan, the final step that would hide her crime forever. If you're ready to discover the chilling way Clara disguised the unthinkable and fooled everyone around her, like this video, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe so you won't miss the next terrifying act. She carried out her plan with the calm of a hostess, but what she served that night was unspeakable. The kitchen smelled of spices and roasting meat. Clara moved with an eerie grace, humming softly, as if the world were unaware of the darkness behind her hands. The knives gleamed, polished and precise. The fire crackled in the hearth, masking the grim work being done. To any outsider, it was a normal kitchen. Dinner preparations, careful seasoning, the clatter of pots and pans. But inside, the truth simmered. A horror so unthinkable it would haunt anyone who knew. Clara worked quickly, methodically, every step calculated, every action deliberate. She had envisioned this moment for weeks. How to hide the evidence, how to disguise the crime as a mundane act, how to ensure no one suspected a thing. The shadows stretched long across the walls. Outside, the desert wind whispered, carrying secrets that no one could understand. Inside, the house felt heavier, laden with a quiet dread. Clara prepared the table. Chairs placed just so, plates polished until they gleamed, silverware aligned perfectly, the illusion of domestic bliss, a mask for the monstrous truth beneath. Her mind raced, but her face remained serene. Every movement was calm, every glance calculated. Even the family dog seemed uneasy, sensing a tension the humans did not. The dinner would be served soon. Every bite would be a testament to Clara's cold cunning. Every laugh, every word spoken over that table would be a lie, a performance. A dinner of darkness hiding the unthinkable beneath the guise of normalcy. And yet, in the depths of her mind, a whisper of fear lingered. Would someone notice? Would the truth emerge? Or would she, at last, have executed the perfect crime? The town outside remained blissfully unaware. The neighbors would soon arrive. The family would sit down to eat. And the horror hidden in plain sight would unfold silently, leaving only questions and disbelief in its wake. If your heart is pounding and you want to see the terrifying dinner that followed and the reactions of those around Clara, hit like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss the next shocking part. Everyone sat down to eat, never imagining the horror hidden in their very meal. The table was set perfectly. Plates gleamed under the flickering candlelight, silverware aligned, glasses filled. Everything appeared normal, as if the morning's horrors had never occurred. Clara moved among her family, smiling softly, serving each dish with care, her movements graceful, her face serene, not a hint of the darkness that lingered behind her calm eyes. The family sat, chatter filled the room, laughter echoed against the wooden walls. Outside, the desert night stretched silent and vast. Each bite taken, each sip was a lie, a terrifying secret hidden beneath the ordinary. Clara watched closely, noting expressions, listening to conversations, ensuring no suspicion arose. Her mind wandered briefly, replaying the morning's act. The plan had been executed perfectly. Yet the most difficult part was still ahead, maintaining the illusion, keeping everyone unaware, hiding the truth under the veil of a normal dinner. Her family smiled, unaware. They spoke of mundane matters, harvests, neighbors, the weather. Nothing hinted at the unspeakable act that had occurred within these very walls. Even the family dog, normally restless, seemed subdued. The tension in the room was palpable, though invisible to the human eye. Clara's heart remained steady. Her calmness was her armor, her control absolute. Each course was served carefully, each conversation monitored. Clara ensured that no glance, no word, no movement would betray her secret. Outside, the town remained ignorant. No one could imagine that beneath this home, beneath the laughter and light, a terrible act had occurred. The darkness was hidden in plain sight, masked by normalcy. And yet the story was far from over. Suspicion would grow, questions would arise, and the truth, no matter how well hidden, has a way of surfacing. If you're shocked and want to see how the town begins to uncover Clara's horrifying secret, hit like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you won't miss the next terrifying. The whispers started quietly, but soon the whole town was gripped by fear and disbelief. Days passed in the Harding household. To the outside world, life seemed unchanged. Clara maintained her calm facade, smiling, cooking, laughing. But inside, tension simmered like a hidden fire. Neighbors began to notice small things. Samuel was never seen outside the ranch. Visitors asked, politely at first, where he was. Clara's answers were smooth, rehearsed, perfect. But whispers spread, subtle at first, like wind rustling through the desert grass. The Harding's house feels different, one neighbor said quietly to another. Samuel hasn't been around. Strange things happening. No one suspected the truth. No one imagined the horror hidden in plain sight. Clara kept her composure. She greeted everyone with charm, every word carefully measured. Her heart beat steadily, her hands never trembling. Yet beneath the mask, she knew that suspicion, once planted, could grow uncontrollably. A child noticed a smell. A neighbor commented on Samuel's absence. Small, seemingly insignificant observations, but to Clara, they were dangerous. Every detail could unravel months of careful planning. The town's curiosity grew. People started asking questions more insistently. They noticed the quiet in the Harding home, the absence of Samuel, the tension that seemed to linger in the air. Even those who once admired the Hardings began to wonder what had happened. Clara listened silently. Every word, every glance, every passing shadow analyzed. She knew she could not slip up, not for a second. Her freedom depended on maintaining the illusion of normalcy. The local sheriff began asking questions. Neighbors shared their suspicions, their concerns. The first threads of investigation formed. The web of lies Clara had spun was under threat. And yet, she remained calm, unflinching. The storm was coming, yes, but Clara Harding had a plan to outwit them all. The truth can hide for only so long, and when it finally emerged, the town of Arizona would never be the same. The sheriff arrived at the Harding house, his boots crunching on the dusty path. He had questions. Curiosity had turned to suspicion, and suspicion had grown into a grim certainty. Neighbors whispered behind closed doors. Something was wrong, something unimaginable. Clara greeted the sheriff with her usual calm. Her smile was practiced, her answers smooth. But even the most composed mask can crack. A slip of the hand, a pause too long. These tiny signs spoke louder than words. The investigation began. Rooms were searched, drawers opened. The house, once a symbol of normal life, revealed secrets in its shadows. And then, the truth came to light. The horror hidden in plain sight could no longer be ignored. Samuel Harding was gone. The unthinkable had happened. The town was stunned. Shock rippled through every street and alley. Clara Harding, the gentle wife, the devoted homemaker, was the architect of a crime so dark it seemed impossible. Her face remained calm as the sheriff explained the evidence. Her mind raced, calculating, yet trapped. The walls of her carefully crafted world were closing in. Justice moved slowly, but it moved nonetheless. The townsfolk demanded answers. The whispers became accusations. And Clara Harding, the woman who had hidden darkness behind a mask of normalcy, could no longer escape the truth. Even as she faced the consequences, the town could not erase the image of that dinner, the normal smiles, the ordinary plates, the horror hidden beneath it all. It was a reminder that evil can wear the most innocent of faces. In the end, history remembered Clara Harding not as a wife, not as a homemaker, but as a chilling example of how darkness can hide behind a smile, and how secrets, no matter how carefully buried, will eventually surface.